Okay, let me pull up your presentation and we're gonna go back to this. Is this, no, that's not the presentation. Present. Okay, can everybody see the screen online?
It's loading the present portion, but we could see the screen that's non-present. There we go. Yes, now we can.
Yep.
All right. All right, Colleen, I'll hand you the floor.
Okay, thank you. Hey, everybody that's here tonight. Hi, patients. Didn't know that you were going to be here. Nice to see you. My name's Colleen Odell, for those that don't know me, and I've been working with patients and other gardeners and Maggie and Willow and everybody with George with Whittier Alliance on the Soo Line Garden Project for a number of years because it has morphed a little bit. And I updated this presentation before I came, so I'm not exactly sure which slide comes next. So we'll kind of roll with it as we go. But I just wanted to update you on where things are at with that project. Okay, so a little bit of background if you don't know about it. Soo Line Garden Site is located north of Midtown Greenway between Garfield and Curried Avenues in the Whittier neighborhood. It's everything within these blue lines is what Park Board owns, the land that Park Board owns. A quick history on it. In the early years, it was used for railway and feed grain uses, which are just very clean and really fabulous. And in '91, gardening began at the site. The land was owned by Hennepin County at that time, and in 2010, the Park Board took over ownership of the land. It's contagious. Something's going on today. Blah, 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 blah. And that garden use is for Park Board's consideration a legacy garden. So that use is grandfathered in. It came in with the ownership of the land. So in 2018, Hennepin County received federal funds to build a proposed ADA accessible bike connection to the Greenway through the park to the neighborhood. And that engagement began in earnest in 21. But in December of last year, the team discovered that there was contamination at the site that exceeded thresholds that are set by the Municipal Pollution Control Agency. And so Hennepin County ends their proposed project. Our Park Board of Commissioners votes down a cooperative agreement with Hennepin County, and the federal funding that had been set aside for that was allowed to lapse. So what we're starting over with now is a much smaller project without the funds. Park Board is managing, and we basically want to focus on cleaning up that site and restoring the legacy use of gardening as best we can, while considering accessibility into the space to Greenway if possible. So this is just a couple examples of some of the designs that Hennepin County had started with when they first came out. Their main, if you know anything about this project before, their main goal was really providing that accessible both pedestrian and primarily bike access through the site to the Greenway. Now that the project has changed, Park Board goals, as I said earlier, are really just to remediate that soil, which might require that we take 4 feet out in almost all of those places. To perpetuate and enhance the existing gardening use, existing community gathering space, and if we're able to provide some accessible access to the Greenway. So we have 3 designs that the designers, Ani Fernandez Landscape Architecture that we're working with, have pulled together. They're now posted on our webpage. I realize all 3 of them here are small, but when you go through them one by one, they look the same. So you kind of have to have them next to each other. So you can look at them in more detail online at our project webpage. And there's a survey that's open until December 6th. That'll allow you to give feedback on what you like, don't like on any of these, and anything else that you want to share. So that is now open out, and I think you guys have all the links to that. So really the main differences between the 3 options is where this path, which you can see starts in the upper left and connects at the bottom to Midtown Greenway, where it goes, what kind of materials are used in it. In one of the examples, it's a EWF, engineered wood fiber, which is a form of wood mulch that compacts and kind of locks. We use it in our playgrounds instead of sand, more accessible than sand, but not as accessible as concrete. One of the options has a concrete walkway, and one of them has a compacted gravel walkway. They also differ in the undisturbed inaccessible areas. So you might be able to see some dark black lines on the bottom parts of the drawings. And those are areas where there's some old legacy trees that we'd really hoped to keep. And in order to do that, we can't disturb any of the soil and it can never be disturbed in the future. So we would have to fence off those areas and those trees could remain, but no one could ever dig in that space again. The contamination that's found in this garden isn't taken up by the plants. So eating the foods of the garden are not the concern. It's digging in the soil and aerating those chemicals. Also the number of garden plots, it ranges, I think, from 70 something to about 100, depending on the design. And there's a gathering space, a central park gathering space in all of these, but it's in different areas and it has different configurations.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
With those options, are people able to mix pavement types between the options? Because like some might have concrete, some might have that mulch or other items. Is that just in the questionnaire? Is that in the survey?
Yeah, we ask you for each one, what do you like and don't like? Not necessarily which one are you taking, all together. Because these are initial concepts and we're going to take all the feedback and try to really come up with the best final concept afterwards.
And just can we get the link posted in the chat here too, just for folks who are online who can probably look at it at the end of this presentation? And then my other question is which one of the options are they have the most plots and the least plots? Do you know on the top of your head, or is that just in the survey?
Yes.
Stop right here.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so concept A has 79 garden plots.
Oh, it's getting loading.
Is that the ADA accessible area?
This one's 8.
I'll tell you, all three of these designs do not have a ramp. All three of these designs have an ADA accessible footpath. The maximum width on any of them would be 8 feet as opposed to the ramp that Hampton County had been proposing, which was a 2-lane paved bikeway next to accessible footpath, which I think ended up being 12 feet or something. So cyclists will still be able to access dismounting their bikes, but it does not provide a ramp the way the last one did. But they all we're able to get wheelchairs down that 5% slope or up.
This one's like.
This one's got so B has 100 beds, and then here we're showing an 8-foot concrete wide path. And then concept C's got 98 garden plots and a 6-foot wide compacted gravel footpath. This one also has a central set of stairs that go straight from the greenway up towards that gathering space.
No, those says stone. Oh.
Yeah, it looks like it's stone in that one, and this for the stairs, and then it looks like it's compacted gravel footpath connecting Whittier to the greenway for this option.
So what
But again, you're saying it could be intermixed, like it could be concrete or it could be mulch.
We're trying out the different ideas. We already have a pretty good idea of who prefers what based on all the engagement that has happened for the years before this.
This is a survey, by the way.
Oh, and there's a survey. But yeah, if there's something you like about one design but not another, we invite people to let us know that way.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Bet. So the concepts right now, we're accepting feedback on them until December 6th. We've already applied for an environmental remediation fund grant from Hampton County. We'll find out on December 1st if we got that or not, and that's really going to determine how fast the rest of the schedule moves. But if it all works out, the plan is remediation in the spring, site reconstruction. I put summer with construction completion and site opened in fall with the idea that if we're able to do it earlier, that would be great. Oh, this is the presentation from the last time I came, because you had asked about park dedication funds, which this, the Whittier Alliance supported a dedication of $370,000 out of park dedication funds towards Soo Line gardens. And that's money that developers are paying whenever they build new buildings in the neighborhood that then has to be spent on new park amenities in the neighborhood. So I know that the last time I came, the board asked about, should we move that money around? Is that money fine where it's at? I think we kind of decided that it can stay where it's at. It just makes sense Right now, we're pretty sure that they will use it. The park board does decide how that and where that money gets spent, but we do like to know the priorities.
So you do the presentation.
That's just a presentation from before, in case anyone had questions about where that money had been allocated. Sure.
Without the grant money, is there any funding available for the Soo Line remediation or any of this proposed work right now?
The 370 that's allocated in park dedication that Whittier Alliance supported could be used for any new amenities that don't exist there now. We could not do, we couldn't use for the remediation or rebuilding of all the plots, for example, which are useless.
So like the path and the stairs and the public space, gathering space, the money could be used for those.
Correct.
Got it. But not the remediation of the soil, just to clarify for everybody.
Correct. Yep.
And the funding for the remediation of the soil, is that there available?
That's the grant that we applied for.
Got it. And if that's not received, then what's the backup option? Just curious.
Well, the backup option is we don't know yet.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
And here's just a quick walkthrough for anybody of these slides from last time.
Yep. And then drilling down on the long range plans for all of the parks in the area, what you all are thinking about. Where can park dedication funds go? Because I know you had talked about some of it going to 28th Street Top Lot. We talked about that.
So this
That was a full board meeting, right? That wasn't one use, was it?
No, it was a housing committee.
It was,
where
okay.
it was an unofficial vote from the community. And that I can link to that video in the meeting into the follow-up email for people to look over that video. But these are all the park projects happening in our neighborhood. So you can see that we have Washburn Fair Oaks and getting something, Clinton Field Park as well. The 28th Street Tot Lot, which Colleen mentioned here, that we were trying to pick for the neighborhood association. Oh gosh, Whittier Alliance was asked to consider reallocating or support reallocating Soo Line garden funds to support the 28th Street Tot Lot project. As you can see, what you can't see on here is that there will be a skate park along with a playground on this corner of park land. And that part of the project is currently looking for funding to make happen, and alongside the park, the playground, which the playground is currently under construction, and you can totally go see. And I want to say that on top of all of that, this is also getting renamed, because a lot of people, it can be very misleading when you hear Tot Lot, because then you won't know that there's also an all age inclusive skate park that is open to everybody that will be planned on here as well. And then lastly, the Whittier Park is also getting some upgrades as well.
To clarify with the funding situation, we have allocated to Whittier Alliance has supported this prior, and the park board has allocated the 370,000 towards the Soo Line garden, and we've decided to keep it right now as is. But in the future, this committee will make a vote or a decision on what we would recommend the funding to be used. And just so you know, that pot of money that we have has not increased in the past couple of years, as we have not had any major new developments in our neighborhood. So once those funds are gone, they're gone for good. And so we have to think carefully about where the money is being spent on what garden space or park space, so that we're making the right decisions for our community and our neighborhood.
Here.
Anything else, Colleen, that you want to add?
No, of the 1.6 million, that in terms of park dedication is a pretty good amount for a neighborhood. We have neighborhoods that have $10,000 in there, so there's not a lot that can do. But you guys have some initial options.
And just to reiterate that what you mentioned earlier, that the way we get money for our parks is through developments that happen in our neighborhood. So the more that there's buildings or more projects, some of that tax money goes to this pot of money. So want everyone to like think of Kmart, which is a large project happening in our neighborhood on Lake Street. That is a slow project, but that is also to like keep in mind of like what you want on there affects the money that comes into money.
We do know there is money coming in the future, but we don't know when, and we don't know when that site will get fully developed. It's going to be one step at a time, and so just think carefully about where we want to spend our money. And so I appreciate this conversation to just see where things are. We don't know the cost, I'm guessing, Colleen, of the project for Soo Line Garden or anything like that yet.
We were thinking it might be a $750,000 entire project, clean up and everything. Yeah, nothing's cheap. The other thing I was gonna mention about park dedication funds is that that's not the only funding that goes to parks in the neighborhood, that is supplemental funding. So when you looked at there was a list of like the parks with the money that's coming in. That is money through our capital improvement program, which comes through tax levies and other sources. And that is allocated to parks throughout the city based on an equity matrix that we have ranked all the parks on, and they cycle through that. And so parks are constantly getting funds as they cycle through, and this money is all coming through that. That's the main funding source for all parks. This parkland dedication is sort of an extra that, hey, if your neighborhood has a lot of new people coming into it, it needs a lot more park spaces to support all those new people that are coming. So we're going directly to the developers and saying, no,
So the 1.6 million is free, no developer history to develop anything on Cambridge. So like once that occurs, there will be new.
the 1.6 is for Whittier neighborhood, wherever we end up spending it. Not even.
But it's I'm just saying.
Oh, pre-Kmart,
It's
correct,
pre-Kmart.
yes. Kmart
Yeah.
isn't something we own yet, so.
Yeah.
Who knows what'll happen there. The other thing is, and I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. Subsidized affordable housing comes in differently than market rate. I don't know if we did anything actually for those, or, so, which is kind of odd considering what you want in the neighborhood, but, that ordinance is on the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances, listed in there. But yeah, amounts of our. So just wanted to know that the, park dedication is still kind of where it always was. Soo Line Garden, we have these 3 really great designs out now, and please let people know that they can let them know.
And I did just share this survey link in the chat. And anyone in the room is interested, I'm happy to keep this up for you guys to like type that in because I don't know what you are going. But this will also be attached and sent out in the follow-up email from this meeting as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're kind of making sure we go around and talk to everyone we can. We had a couple of meetings with the gardeners that have been using the site and are currently at temporary locations. We presented it to the Minneapolis Bicycle Advisory Committee, the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and the Committee on People with Disabilities. So we're really trying to get it out there as wide as.
Will there be a 2025 growing season at Soo Line, or is that?
That's the hope. That's the hope. I did say fall there, but that's just because I'm doing myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
If everything works out, and we've got our fingers crossed, we're really waiting till December 1st till that grant comes in. That's going to help us determine what happens.
What were the contaminants discovered and how, like, just, I mean, what, like loosely, what is the remediation process like? I'm curious because I truly have no idea.
Yeah, I didn't put all those details in here because they're awfully sciencey, but it's DRO, diesel range organics, and PAH, which is something or something. I'm sorry, I don't have it memorized.
And that's from back in the day when there was like rail.
It's mostly kind of rail, but it also, those things turn up in just about any urban environment when you've got the runoff from streets, et cetera. But primarily what we're seeing is probably a lot of that historic contamination is there. And as I said, we work with Ron Intertech, who has done a full review of the testing and says these are not chemicals that are taken up by plants. So we've done gardening here, we're not doing that. It's more the digging around in it, which is why it pretty much has to be removed. And we looked at some options of trying to do it in phases or trying to maybe do parts of it but not other parts of it, but it just gets very complicated and I think expensive and not as safe. So as much of it as we're able to clear and replace, I think the better off we're going to be, and try to balance that with some of those legacy trees that are.
So what does that actually mean? Like you're removing the soil and bringing in new soil from somewhere else?
That's
Not
what
really.
has
wow.
to be disposed of in a toxic waste.
Really?
Location. Yeah.
Wow.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Does
that's
that
pretty fascinating.
soil ever get to be reused then though, or does
No,
it
it's
get
not.
to be?
Did they burn it? That's a really good question. I don't know. I will ask Ron. What happens?
And does anybody online have any questions or any concerns? No.
Anybody have any comments, questions online and in person?
Yeah, this is Patience, if you guys don't mind if I take just a moment.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to share, all of the work that the park board and the designers has been really appreciated by Soo Line Community Garden. I think one thing that's different about this project is we're feeling a lot more listened to and that our concerns have been validated and taken seriously. We were concerned about the contaminated soil, and that turned out to be an issue. It has been tested in the past and was deemed to be, acceptable to gardening, but standards change over the years. So here we are, and we're happy to get the soil cleaned up. I think all of the designs are something that gardeners would really like. I think there's a preference from the garden community for concept B or C, but without a concrete path for the reasons that we have kind of spelled out over the years. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for participating in the survey because it's a really great community asset. I know I've really missed it this summer and I can't wait to get back in this space. So thanks for letting me take a second.
Thank you for your
Sure.
comment.
Thanks for sharing that. We appreciate it. I also personally kind of like option C, just by the look of it. I like the community gathering space, but um, thanks for sharing what you guys all think, and I'm glad that this process is working out really well.
Fine, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can reach out anytime. Any questions, just let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Colleen. You can probably stop the recording now. For this portion, and Maggie then will give us some updates on general announcements.